Live from KSAT 12, the 6 o'clock news starts right now.
The inability to provide adequate resources to those with mental health issues incarcerated inside the Bexar County Jail is why newly re-elected Sheriff Javier Salazar says creating a mental health care unit in the jail is one of his top priorities.
As Salazar told us last night during the KSAT Q&A right here, part of his plan includes repurposing part of the jail for that unit and bringing in mental health care specialists. But none of that happens without approval from county leaders.
Our Devin Clark spoke to the newly elected Precinct 1 County Commissioner about whether she's on board with this idea.
The big part of my campaign has been on mental health.
County leaders say they understand mental health is a major problem that needs to be addressed locally.
Sadly, in the state of Texas, our jails are the #1 provider of mental health services.
Precinct 1 Commissioner-elect Rebecca Clay Flores touching on the issue a day after Sheriff Javier Salazar spoke on our KSAT Q&A about the idea of creating a mental health care unit inside of the jail.
We don't have enough mental health beds in the state of Texas. Consequently, jails are becoming kind of our de facto mental health facilities.
The inadequacies, Salazar says, affect more than those incarcerated.
And I don't think that's fair to the taxpayers that are having to foot the bill for it. I don't think it's fair to the deputies that are having to fill a role that should belong to somebody else. Now, I certainly don't think it's fair to the mentally ill inmates that should be getting help.
Flores agrees and adds that in addition to mental health care resources inside the jail, she's working on more efforts to help youth avoid the correctional system altogether.
So it's as if we wait for oftentimes our young people to make mistakes. They get thrown in jail, and then we realize, wait, maybe there's a mental health issue.
Before the mental health care unit comes into fruition, the proposal must be brought before Commissioner's Court and approved. And while it's unclear how much it could cost the county, Clay Flores says she's interested in working on the plan. Reporting outside the Bexar County Jail, Devin Clark, KSAT 12 News.
As the COVID pandemic continues to heat up back in Bexar County with a rising positivity rate, two of the largest school districts say they will not be rolling back in-person instruction. Northside and Northeast ISD have both already opened up their schools to all the students who want to be back. But while Metro Health's school risk level might be at the moderate level, an NEISD spokeswoman says the vast majority of cases they've seen appear to be coming in from off campus.
We're not seeing schools being considered super spreaders like some people thought that they would be. You could argue that it's safer for kids to be masked up with safety protocols all day than perhaps doing whatever else it is they might be doing.
Both of the school districts say parents have the option to take their kids out of class and return to virtual learning.
This is typically the time of year when home buying tapers off, but this year, at least here in San Antonio, it is still going gangbusters. Not only were September sales up a whopping 32% over last year, October sales also up 20%. The pandemic did slow sales last spring, but they've more than caught up. Super low interest rates are driving those sales, and so is the need for more elbow room as families are spending a lot more time at home. Realtors tell us that buyers' wish lists have changed.
They're looking for land, bigger properties, land-wise, and certainly bigger homes. And when they thought that they were already on a big home, they're looking for a bigger home. So it was to my surprise, as well as looking for pools in the homes, like never before.
Something else high on the wish lists, space for a home office. Seems working from home has made a dedicated workspace a big priority.
223 miles. That's how far a local man is about to run to raise thousands of dollars for child sexual assault victims. A survivor himself, he tells Courtney Friedman his goal is to show children they have support and empower them to speak up.
It's reported 90% of child sex assault victims stay silent, something Kenneth Anderlich understands. It took him years to come forward with his painful story.
a little over 5 years ago, starting to come to terms about it.
He says he never had access to an organization like Child Safe in Bexar County.
Last year, we saw 5,200 and some clients, and 76% of them were sexual abuse cases. Our services are forensic interviews, wraparound services, advocacy, case management, and clinical therapy.
Maliha Imami oversees fundraising for Child Safe and is working with Anderlich, who is, believe it or not, getting ready to run 223 miles to raise money for Child Safe.
Each child takes almost close to $1,000 to get them through services a full year. And so I would like to raise $10,000 to, of course, help 10 children start their path towards recovery.
His Road to Healing support team includes Roel Gonzalez and Ben Adon, who have also run routes hundreds of miles long. He'll take off from the Austin Capitol building November 19th at 4 a.m. and finish at the Lexington Bridge in Corpus Christi on November 21st, all to break the cycle of sexual abuse, stigma, and unearned shame.
Hopefully, somewhere down the line, maybe out of those 10 children, one of them will, of course, carry the torch and help out another individual.
A ripple effect of healing, love, and freedom. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
To find out more about Anderlich's run or to donate to his cause, head to his website, road2healing.org.
Let's take a look at time saver traffic right now. This is the TransGuide camera here at Loop 410 and Evers. That's the westbound lanes coming towards the camera. A little heavier than the traffic going eastbound, but you can see all in all, things are smooth sailing this evening. We have a follow-up to a story we brought you last month that had to do with people living in tents out in the open near the downtown area. Shortly before that story aired, one encampment at Main Avenue and I-35 suddenly vanished. Katrina Weber solves the mystery of what happened.
They may have been living in tents, but for months, this was home to some people, including Dominique Grant. When we first spoke to him in early October, he told us they set up camp in this parking lot off North Main out of necessity.
This is not no community. This is a way of life.
Coronavirus quarantines had shut down the city's homeless outreach services. Soon after we reached out to the Human Services Department about it, the camp, along with everyone in it, suddenly disappeared.
I was at the city council meeting that morning trying to meet with the mayor about this situation.
Grant says while he was away briefly, the city conducted a surprise eviction. We caught up with him by chance, still on the streets weeks later. He says although they had permission from the property owner to be here, police officers forced them out, throwing out some of their belongings.
Why you scatter everybody like ants? That don't make no sense.
At the time of the eviction, a spokesman with DHS, Roland Martinez, told me that this was done to help to get people off the streets and into shelters. But Grant says that never happened for him or most of the people who were here. In fact, that's his tent, now on state property, just on the other side of the fence. He says with his criminal past, he's caught in a system that makes it nearly impossible for people like him to make changes.
There ain't no such thing as a person don't want no roof over their head. That's not even an argument.
He's hoping one day he'll be able to cut through the red tape and walk through his own front door. Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
Now, we asked several city departments about the way that eviction was allegedly handled. SAPD, the only agency that responded. A spokesperson tells us that officers were there only to provide security during the cleanup, which was organized by other city departments. She denied those officers touched or removed anyone's property. District 1 City Council member Roberto Trevino's office sent us a statement that read in part, quote, "We have taken a very human-centered approach to the crisis, and our homeless outreach team continues to connect with folks to get them access to the resources they need. This method was recently adopted in our fiscal year 2021 budget and will be implemented across all districts with an additional team focused on downtown." End quote. You can read Trevino's full statement on our website right now at ksat.com. Just click on this story.
Take a live look outside with live cam tonight. Look at that sunset.
That's a good one.
That's definitely the best one of the week so far.
It is, and it's those high thin clouds helping us out as well. And I'm going to have that time lapse for you coming up later in just a few minutes and see how nice that looks. All right, today we topped out at 76 degrees after a morning low of 44. So this morning, 6 degrees below average. This afternoon, 4 degrees above average. It's that time of year where we get a big temperature swing from the morning low to the afternoon high. And tomorrow's going to be very similar. Right now, temperatures are on the downswing. Sun has set. We're down in the 60s for most of us. Castroville hanging on to 71, Helotes at 70, along with Bulverde and New Braunfels. 66 at the airport in San Antonio. Fast forward to tomorrow morning, we'll be down in the low to mid 40s, even some upper 30s in parts of the hill country. Comfort 39, 35 Kerrville, 41 Rio Medina, 46 at Stinson on the south side to start your day. So jacket weather or long sleeves to start the day. But by the afternoon, we're going to have plenty of sunshine. We'll go from the 40s in the morning into the 70s by tomorrow afternoon. So it's another one of those days where, yeah, maybe jacket in the morning, but anything goes later on in the day. Short sleeves, just fine. A lot of sunshine tomorrow. We'll have a little bit of cloud cover in the morning. Otherwise, mostly sunny. East-southeasterly breeze at 5 to 15 miles per hour. By the way, the aquifer down 0.7 of a foot today. We're 8 feet below the November average, and we're stage 1 watering restrictions. So something to keep in mind. And only one allergen reported today, mold, and it's low at 200. But being November, you know what's just around the corner. Mountain cedar season, starting something to think about now. We'll let you know, of course, when that first creeps into the pollen count in the weeks ahead. We'll have your 7-day forecast and talk about the next cold front and what it means for temperature drop coming right up.
We are just a few seconds away from today's daily briefing on coronavirus cases here locally. We're expecting to hear from Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolff about his plans to potentially shut down certain bars should we see the positivity rate continue to climb here locally.
And again, this is a virtual Zoom kind of update. Let's listen in.
Wu, who is our medical director here in San Antonio, along with our Bexar County Public Health Authority. As you can see, I'm continuing to serve out the duration of my quarantine under the guidance of public health officials. So thank you very much for tuning in to our COVID-19 briefing this evening, which is virtual once again. Tonight, we are reporting 291 new cases of COVID-19, which brings the cumulative total to 70,528 since this pandemic began in San Antonio. Our new 7-day moving average is now 291. Unfortunately, we do have 3 new deaths to report tonight. 2 Hispanic males in their 60s and 1 Hispanic female in her 70s. Please keep them and their families in your prayers this evening. When we've reported deaths over the past 9 months, we have often heard the phrase used, underlying health conditions. I want to take a moment tonight to better explain what that means. Adults of any age with certain underlying medical conditions are at an increased risk for severe illness from the virus that causes COVID-19, including hospitalization, admission to the intensive care unit, and the need for ventilation and even death. According to the CDC, those conditions include cancer, chronic kidney disease, COPD, which is also chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, heart conditions, immunocompromised state, or also known as a weakened immune system from an organ transplant, obesity, pregnancy, sickle cell disease, smoking, and type 2 diabetes. In addition to these medical conditions, the data shows that other conditions such as asthma, high blood pressure, and dementia may also increase the risks of COVID-19. It's especially important for people to know that increased risk of severe illness does occur with COVID-19, and those who live with them to protect themselves from getting COVID-19 should take extra precautions. The hospital system tonight is now continuing to show more stress. There are now 422 COVID-19 patients in the hospital this evening, and of these patients, 67 are from El Paso. There are 62 new admissions in the last 24 hours, and we have 149 patients in the ICU this evening, along with 65 patients on ventilators. We're continuing to watch those hospital numbers very carefully. Very quickly now, before I turn it over to the judge, on schools, the school risk indicator bar is in the yellow zone, moderate. That means that the in-person instruction, if offered, should prioritize special needs students, at-risk students, and students who lack internet access. Students and staff should continue to wear masks and practice physical distancing when in person. Let me turn it over now to Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolff.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And as we all know, while we may not be getting a spike we are constantly going up, and there doesn't seem to be any stopping of it right now. Our hospitalization rate now is almost 11%, 10.8%. As you know, about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, the governor allowed county judges to open bars that do not serve food, which was a smaller percentage. There was already 2,000 open that do serve food along with restaurants. The CRC recommended that we do that. I think we were at about 5% then. We have continued to go up. So I asked them what would be their recommendation now as we move forward. Their recommendation on the bars that are not serving food, that if we have a positive rate of 10% or more for the next 2 weeks in a row, that we should close their bars. I'm following their recommendation because the hospitalization is getting close. The governor only allowed those bars to be open if it was less than 15%. So we're getting very, very close to that.
Great. Thank you, Judge. And as you know, many of our community is struggling through this pandemic, and we want you to know if there is assistance that you need with regard to paying rent or mortgage. We have an emergency housing assistance program for you. You can find more information on that by calling 311 or going to the website covid19.sanantonio.gov.
All right, so that was the briefing from the mayor and the county judge that you heard. 292 new cases, bringing us to 70,528. 3 new deaths. We're now at 1,304. But the number that continues to rise, that is perhaps most concerning, I think, for officials, is the 422 patients. That's, again, a rise from just yesterday.
67 of those patients, we should mention, are from El Paso, an area really seeing a surge, sending patients throughout the state to get the services they need. We did hear the county judge there outline his plan for bars that do not serve food. He said that if we see that positivity rate hit 10% and stay there or higher for 2 weeks in a row, then bars that do not serve food would be required to close once again here in Bexar County. So we will see how that plays out. He said we're not seeing a spike necessarily, but we definitely are seeing a steady increase, which is something that certainly has people concerned.
Yeah, the school risk meter at moderate, which is yellow, caution right now. All right, let's switch over to weather right now and talk about perhaps another cold front headed our way, Adam?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to make it here at some point late Sunday into early Monday. But out ahead of it, you're going to notice some moderation in our morning temperatures. That's going to be the biggest change, not necessarily afternoon. So it will be another cool morning tomorrow. You want a light jacket or long sleeves in the morning. Then we get into the pattern that we've become accustomed to, where we have fog and drizzle every morning for a stretch of days. And that's going to start on Thursday. And that other cold front likely to hit us toward the end of the weekend. All right, take a look at this beautiful time lapse from our city cam. Looking at that sunset this evening, 66 degrees at the moment, dew point of 24. So dry air in place, giving us a relative humidity of 20%. Temperatures mostly in the 60s. We're hanging on to 70 in a few locations. Del Rio at 73, New Braunfels 70. These temperatures, though, will be dropping pretty efficiently this evening with the clear sky, lack of much of a breeze, and of course, dry air in place. So good radiational cooling. Dew points right now, 20s to 30s. So very dry air in place. This is going to be changing, though, in the days ahead, and you'll notice humidity back in the air by Friday through the upcoming weekend. Mostly clear other than those high clouds coming in from the west. And there really isn't a lot of moisture for us to tap into right now, even if we had a disturbance to stir things up. You have to head to the West Coast and New England for that activity. Just like yesterday, it's the northern corners of the U.S. where we have the moisture and the activity. We've got an upper level ridge, little bump that's overhead right now, and that's keeping us sunny. It's going to give us some fairly sunny weather the next few days. Rain chances up to 20 to 30% Sunday through Tuesday of next week. Tomorrow we'll start the day at 45. Make it into the mid 70s with a good amount of sunshine, and then those mornings make it back into the 60s by this upcoming weekend. But highs don't change much until that cold front hits late Sunday, and you see that temperature drop into next week.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
All right. So they just got back to work, and they have a big game this weekend, Greg.
Yeah, their biggest game of the season. You're talking about the Justin Rockets. We were on campus Monday a week ago when they found out they did have a COVID positive test. And as a result, they shut down their football program, but is back in progress right now. Starting today, we'll check in with the Rockets and their return as they prepare for Steel. And is social media hurting UT's chances of recruiting? If you ask that man, the answer is yes. Coming up. For the first time in a week, the Judson Rockets football program was back in business today. In fact, this is their first workout since being shut down last Monday afternoon while we were there at practice after Judson school district officials found out about one positive coronavirus test and the resulting contact tracing. Now it's time to get ready for their biggest game of the season against rival Steel in a battle of the unbeatens in District 27, 6A.
It feels amazing, you know. We've been locked up for a week, and we didn't like that, and we're excited to come out and play against a great team. This is always a big one. It's always going to be a great test, a great game, and stay tuned.
That's a big game for us. We always take it seriously because still they're a good team, and we're also a good team, so it's just two good teams going head-to-head, so it's just a big game for San Antonio.
Yeah, kickoff between the Rockets and the Knights set for Friday night, Lenoff Stadium at 7:30. The Texas Longhorns are coming out their bye week and ready to try and extend their win streak to 4 games when they face the winless Jayhawks in Kansas this Saturday afternoon, sitting at 5-2, ranked 22nd. In the latest Associated Press college football poll, the Longhorns are 28.5-point favorites over the 0-7 Jayhawks. But remember, the Horns barely beat Kansas last year in Austin, 50-48 on a last-second field goal. Despite the fact they're still in contention for the Big 12 title, much has been made about the future of Tom Herman at Texas on social media and speculation he's going to be replaced by Urban Meyer at the end of the season. That does not sit well with Herman and his recruiting efforts.
When you have the things that have been written about us and our program, myself and our future, very unfounded articles that state, again, opinion as fact, that state unnamed sources as being factual, you know, that is really the hard part in recruiting, is because these 16-year-old kids are very impressionable.
Herman already lost the #1 recruit for 2022, South Lake Era quarterback Quinn Hewers, who decided to decommit to Texas last month. After blowing out UTEP 52-21, the UTSA Roadrunners are now preparing for their road trip to southern Mississippi to take on the Golden Eagles, where the Roadrunners are 9-point favorites. Now, the Roadrunners will be looking for their 6th win of the year, which makes them bowl eligible. The last and only time the Roadrunners have been invited to a bowl game was back in 2016 in Frank Wilson's first year as head coach of the Roadrunners, where they lost in the New Mexico Bowl. Now, not only can a win against Southern Miss make UTSA bowl eligible, it would also give them a winning season after going 3-9, 4-8 in the last 2 seasons. What will that mean for seniors such as defensive end Lorenzo Dantzler?
It'll mean everything to me, you know, because I've been used to winning my whole football career, and it's been a rough couple of years here at UTSA, you know, not having winning seasons. So I think the work is going to be shown that we put in throughout the years, and we just want to make UTSA fans happy.
Kickoff on Saturday, Southern Miss is set for 2 p.m. After the NCAA announced plans to play their entire NCAA tournament in a single location, possibly Indianapolis, during the COVID-19 pandemic, fans are asking if the NCAA plans to do the same thing with the women's tournament, since the Final Four is scheduled for April in the Alamo Dome here in San Antonio. The San Antonio local organizing committee is very open to that.
Reducing the number of locations that they're practicing and playing obviously makes good sense during this time. And so, you know, if that works out for San Antonio, it would be an ideal situation for us. And we, as I continue to tell the NCAA, we have been prepared to host the Women's Final Four for the past 2 years in whatever way that looks.
Can you imagine that many teams, staff, and personnel descending upon San Antonio? What a boost it would be for this city.
It would be great.
Let's hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
You got it.
Thank you, Greg.
Our KSAT Q&A is up next.
The effects from the COVID-19 pandemic are far-reaching into our community, including the abuse of substances and alcohol. Avita Marine is the CEO of Rise Recovery. I want to read exactly what your mission is: to help teens, young adults, and families overcome the effects of drugs and alcohol. Recovery, the key part in that. Avita, thank you for joining us. Talk about what you're seeing and the effects that you're seeing from COVID-19.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me here today to talk about that. I think what we are seeing is that, as we can all feel, the stresses of COVID seem nonstop, and there feels often like there's no end in sight. And I think because of the continued stress, that ongoing trauma for some people, it is causing an increase in using alcohol and drugs to cope with that stress when there are so many other healthier coping mechanisms they could be using. But we're stuck on that, especially with the closure of bars. And, for that period of time, a lot of people brought their alcohol inside in their homes at much higher rates. And so we just want to be very careful as we continue to see drugs and alcohol as that second behavioral health wave, that health wave of COVID issues.
Not only would that be a problem for the person, the adult who is drinking more than usual, more than they should be, or using that as a way to cope, but you point out that kids are home more. That's creating a dangerous opportunity for them to get a hold of that. But you also mentioned, too, about how they're watching how adults are coping. They're looking to that. So what do parents need to be really aware of?
Yeah, I think the number one fact that parents need to understand is that one of the highest risk factors to a young person developing an alcohol or drug addiction in the future is how early they're exposed to substances. And so I ask parents to be mindful as we bring our mini bars onto the kitchen counter, that we're really thinking about what our behaviors are in front of our children, that we are locking our alcohol cabinets so that our curious and observant kids aren't trying things out for themselves at such an early age. That would really decrease the risk factor to those children and create a much safer space for them, regardless of, we're not talking about parents who have alcohol problems. We're talking about parents who have casual drinking, but because of the increase of it in the home, the risk to children is much higher than it ever has been.
And as you pointed out, bringing more alcohol into the home, since the bars and things have closed down, also makes the availability easier for some of these kids if they want to experiment with what's happening. It can't be normalized, is what you're saying.
We really need to be talking to our children. We need to be letting them know and giving them alternatives. We're the models for our kids. And so, what I like to tell our families that are engaging in habits because they are not the addicted person or don't see a problem yet in their family is we need to be modeling healthy coping skills for stress. And so, I let my child know, hey, I'm going to visit a counselor because this is, I'm stressed by this, or I'm going to see a doctor because this is bothering me. And I'm not always going to pick up a glass of wine after every stressful day. And so those are the kind of things we need to be habitualizing instead. And I just think, we often assume that drugs and alcohol abuse is because of poor parenting or the economic situation someone is born in, or other, obvious risks, but the real risk is how early they start. And so we need to be sure that our kids don't accidentally get exposed because we are drinking more in front of them than we ever have before.
Are you hearing stories from people who find themselves with addiction struggles for the very first time because of this pandemic? Maybe it's not something they've ever turned to before, but they didn't know where else to turn because of just the unique situation we're in right now?
Yes, I have. I've spoken to many, even, friends of mine, just everyday normal people who feel like they are out of options and that alcohol is the easiest option to numb a lot of the stress that's been going on. And so, I think it's remembering that there are ways to seek help. There's telehealth. There are, obviously there's accessing counselors and doctors. We have a 24-hour recovery helpline that people can pick up, 210-SAY-CARE, SAYCARE, as just a way to start questioning those behaviors and finding out if there's more help that we need.
And that's 210-SAY-CARE. We've got it right now on the screen below us. What are you seeing are you seeing an increase in overdoses? Are you seeing an increase of people being hospitalized from abusing substances?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, this pandemic is doing more to health than just the coronavirus, risk. It's also increasing the risk of overdose because of the increased use. We have higher rates of depression and anxiety across our country, and all of those contribute to the increased use and the increased overdoses. there is such a need for more behavioral health support, addiction support, and less judgment for people. We just need to understand that they need help, and that those families need the support to connect those loved ones to help.
Again, that 24-hour helpline right here on your screen, 210-SAY-SAY-CARE. Before we go, let's talk about, again, some other ways of coping for people who are just struggling to come up with another option. What are some quick tips?
Yeah, some quick tips. Well, first is to be, let's think about whether or not people have, if you're experiencing changes in your behavior, in your hygiene, in your health, in your psychological well-being, those are signs that a problem might be happening. If it's causing more harm than help to you, then this is probably a time to pause and think of something different. There are wonderful books out that can support that journey. One of the ones, especially for young people, that I like is High by David and Nick Sheff. I highly recommend reading that. And then there is access to peer supports and peer coaches to support groups, again, through Rise Recovery or through a number of our, if the issue is more escalated, through treatment centers like Alpha Home, Lifetime Recovery. And these places don't necessarily require insurance. There are places that you can get help without having the funds, because we are nonprofits and we are here to serve the community. And so if those are a need, then we're there. But please exercise, get out. The weather is beautiful. Find ways to take walks. I think I've found that we are in our heads so much. So getting out of our heads, getting out of social media, reading a book again, writing again, even connecting with our peers, things that we have taken for granted back in the day and maybe haven't picked up again because things are so overwhelming. We need those things to restore our love for ourselves and our balance. And I think those are things that I would ask us to do. Let's get back to basics. And if we need counseling or a doctor's visit, then we need to do that.
Great help. Also, there's a stigma out there that asking for help is a sign of weakness. It is anything but. It's a sign of strength. It's a sign of taking care of yourself, because you or someone life may depend on it. So Avita Marine with Rise Recovery, always appreciate your time. Again, 210-SAY-CARE, the 24-hour helpline for Rise Recovery. Avita, have a great night.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Country music legend Dolly Parton getting a shout out in the announcement of the promising results of Moderna's experimental coronavirus vaccine. The Dolly Parton COVID-19 Research Fund is listed in the footnotes of the New England Journal of Medicine's report on the vaccine results, along with other donors. That's because she donated $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center earlier this year to fund coronavirus research.
And she urged her fans to donate. Vanderbilt ended up taking part in Moderna's vaccine trials. The vaccine is now the second coronavirus vaccine with a stunningly high success rate. Moderna vaccinations could begin as soon as late December. Vaccine, 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 vaccine.
Yeah, I see what you did there. And I'm just going to say I did not need another reason to love Dolly.
But now you have it.
I got it.
Does anybody not like Dolly? I mean, I've never heard anybody say a bad word about her.
If you don't, do not email me.
Okay, all right. Myra loves her.
I do.
Oh, Myra, Dolly or Reba?
These are not choices I need to be making.
Putting you on the spot in front of San Antonio.
I wouldn't even know what to do.
Is that like somebody asking you if you have a favorite child or something, right? Like just, yeah, you love them all. Exactly. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at our forecast this evening. 66 right now. We'll be down to 56 by 10 p.m. And you will notice some changes in the days ahead. I'm going to talk about that and then our next cold front when that's supposed to arrive, coming right up.
It's a beautiful day out there. Hoping these fall temperatures last.
Me too. I could use some more chilly temperatures because I'm obviously, if you don't know at home, I'm doing a no-shave November.
Yes, that's right.
And so, I like the colder temperatures.
Gets a little hot.
I'm not really making any disparaging comments about beards. I'm just saying the colder weather would help. Yeah.
I want to see the icicles hanging from yours,
I don't think we're going to see that before the month ends.
People ask me why I'm not doing that. If I grow any hair, you can't see it, first of all. It looks terrible. It looks like I just have a dirty face, okay?
Yeah.
Looks like I need to wash my face. I can't pull it off. Can't pull it off. No. I'll stick to making thermometers instead of growing beards.
We all have our thing.
We do. We all have our thing. We all have our strengths, and that's one of my strengths. All right, 45 degrees tomorrow morning, but notice how those morning readings go upward a bit in the days ahead. We'll actually have morning temperatures back in the 60s by this weekend, and that's a clear indicator that more moisture will be back in the air. Some noticeable humidity, actually, by Friday through the weekend. But look what happens early next week. We're back on the downswing in terms of the temperatures. All right, so we'll talk about that cold front and what we're expecting from it coming right up. But this is just fantastic. Gorgeous sunset this evening. I love those high, thin cirrus clouds. When they're overhead this time of day, they make for a nice, colorful sunset, and that's what we got. Not to mention the moon's following it there. You can see on the upper left-hand side of your screen. 66 right now, dew point of 24, so dry air, not much of an easterly breeze. So we have good radiational cooling that's going to happen, very efficient cooling this evening. Pretty uniform across the state. For the most part, we're in the 60s. Alpine 63 along with Dallas, Amarillo 62. Then you get up to 73 in Brownsville. Pleasanton already to 59. Fredericksburg checking in at 57 degrees. We're starting to notice that drop off now that we're about an hour and 10 minutes past sunset. But fast forward to tomorrow morning, and we'll have widespread 40s. So have the long sleeves, a sweatshirt, or a light jacket for the kids at the bus stop tomorrow morning. Especially in the hill country, we will likely see some mid-30s, but we're thinking mid-40s for the rest of us. 44 New Braunfels and Hondo, 46 Pleasanton, Gonzales 44 to start your day. Then by the afternoon, anything goes. You can be in short sleeves if you want. You'll be just fine. Sunny and well into the 70s. And I mentioned those morning lows and how they creep upward. Clear indication, humidity will be back in place. Not now, not tomorrow. You won't notice any changes. But as we go forward, these dew points in the 20s that we have now are going to turn into dew points in the 50s and 60s. So once you get that dew point at and above 60, that's when you feel the mugginess and stickiness in the air. That's going to be the case by Friday, lasting through the weekend until that next cold front comes. And the timing of that front should be sometime late Sunday, possibly into early Monday. Still some uncertainty as it's not even a cold front on the map yet. It hasn't even formed. We're still waiting for this cold front to develop. Then we can take measurements of it and get a better idea of when it could get here. Moisture-wise, though, it's more of the same. You see the West Coast getting some shower activity. New England, it's the northern corners of the U.S. where we have the activity around here. We can't get it. We actually have the big blue H overhead. And when the cold front moves in, there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of the timing. Rain chances, though, I think still about 20 to 30%. That would be late Sunday, even into Monday and Tuesday. Can't rule out a few showers here and there. So not exactly all that promising in terms of rain, especially meaningful activity. But at least it's something. It's a shot at a few showers. And of course, with that uncertainty with the front, we'll stay on top of it and keep you updated. Tomorrow morning, 45 degrees, but quickly into the 60s by 10 a.m. So you'll only need the long sleeves for a little bit. And then mid-70s for highs with a lot of sunshine and a light east-southeasterly wind. Morning fog is back on Thursday. We've become accustomed to that. Thursday morning, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, every morning from Thursday through Sunday, morning fog, a little bit of drizzle and dampness to start the day, giving way to afternoon sunshine. The afternoon temperatures aren't going to change a whole lot. Upper 70s near 80 until that cold front hits. So by early next week, we could be looking at afternoon readings down in the 60s.
That would be nice. In case you missed it, coming up next.
Here's today's in case you missed it.
Good morning. It is Tuesday. It is November 17th.
Fire crews at an apartment complex at the 1300 block of Gardena Street.
As many as 17 units were called to the scene at 11 this morning. At least 6 apartments were heavily affected. Firefighters think the fire actually started in one of those apartments. Crews were able to stop the flames from spreading to other buildings. Firefighters say some people will be displaced, but no one was injured.
Escorted by police officers, the massive con-colored Christmas tree from the northern part of Michigan arrived at Travis Park this morning. The tree will be decorated with lights and ribbons over the next week to be ready for a not-so-traditional tree lighting ceremony after Thanksgiving to keep everyone socially distanced and safe.
And a man should be okay after he was shot in the chest with bird shot. Police say the 30-year-old man was walking down East Hart Street near South Flores on the south side when a driver in a car pulled up and someone inside the vehicle pulled out a shotgun. Police say the man who was shot was able to knock on a couple of people's doors and was able to get help.
As the COVID pandemic continues to heat up back in Bexar County with a rising positivity rate, two of the largest school districts say they will not be rolling back in-person instruction. Northside and Northeast ISD have both already opened up their schools to all the students who want to be back. But while Metro Health's school risk level might be at the moderate level, an NEISD spokeswoman says the vast majority of cases they've seen appear to be coming in from off campus.
All right, tomorrow morning, back down into the 40s, low to mid 40s for most of us. So feeling a bit of a chill in the air, but we warm up quickly again. I mean, by the noon hour, we'll be around 70. So long sleeves in the morning, short sleeves in the afternoon, good amount of sunshine as well. We look ahead, and it's really what changes the most is the morning temperatures back into the 50s and 60s to round out the work week and into the weekend. Noticeable humidity back in the air by Friday until our next cold front arrives late Sunday, possibly into early Monday.
Another one coming our way. Thanks, Adam. And thanks for watching the news at 6.
See you on the Night Beat at 10.